Ladies and gentlemen, embracing solitude is not about isolating yourself from the world or cutting off human connection. It is about learning to be at peace in your own company. It is the art of finding contentment and richness in moments when you are alone, without feeling a constant need for distraction, validation, or companionship. Many people fear solitude because they mistake it for loneliness, but the two are entirely different. Loneliness is a feeling of emptiness, a longing for connection that is absent. Solitude, on the other hand, is a chosen state, a space where you meet yourself fully without interference. When you embrace solitude, you create a sacred space in which your thoughts can settle, your emotions can breathe, and your inner voice can be heard. In the noise of daily life, that inner voice is often drowned out by external demands, opinions, and expectations. The quiet of solitude allows you to reconnect with it. It is in these moments that you begin to understand what you truly think, what you genuinely feel, and what you deeply want, not just what you have been told to want. Spending time alone can initially feel uncomfortable, especially if you have been used to filling every gap in your day with activity or company. This discomfort is often a sign that you are meeting parts of yourself you have avoided. You might encounter boredom, restlessness, or even buried emotions that surface in the stillness. Rather than running from them, solitude invites you to sit with them. This is where growth begins, in the willingness to feel without rushing to escape. In solitude, you learn to rely on your own presence for comfort. You discover that you can enjoy a meal without conversation, take a walk without sharing it online, or spend an evening with nothing but your thoughts for company. These acts may seem small, but they carry profound meaning. They teach you that you are enough. You do not need someone else to witness your moments for them to have value. Your experiences matter simply because you live them. Solitude also fosters creativity and clarity. When your mind is not bombarded by constant input, it begins to wander in new directions. Ideas emerge, solutions to problems reveal themselves, and connections between thoughts become clearer. Many of history's greatest thinkers, artists, and leaders have spoken of the importance of solitude for reflection and inspiration. But this is not limited to grand achievements. Even in everyday life, solitude can help you make better decisions, understand yourself more deeply, and see the world with fresh eyes. Another gift of solitude is emotional independence. When you are comfortable being alone, you stop seeking relationships as a way to fill an inner void. Instead, you enter them as a whole person, bringing your own fullness to share rather than depending on someone else to complete you. This changes the dynamic of your connections. They become healthier, freer, and more authentic. You are with others because you choose to be, not because you fear being alone. Embracing solitude also means accepting that not every moment needs to be occupied or productive. In a world that glorifies constant activity, sitting quietly with yourself can feel rebellious. Yet it is in these pauses that you recharge your energy and realign with what truly matters. Solitude gives you the space to remember that your worth is not tied to your output or your social presence. It is inherent in simply being. To truly embrace solitude, you must release the belief that it is a sign of weakness or failure. Many people equate being alone with being unwanted, but solitude can be one of the most empowering choices you make. It shows that you have cultivated a relationship with yourself strong enough to withstand silence and space. This relationship becomes a foundation for every other aspect of your life. Over time, solitude shifts from something you occasionally tolerate to something you actively seek. It becomes a refuge, a place where you can return to yourself whenever the world feels overwhelming. In the quiet, you remember that you are more than the roles you play, more than the demands placed upon you, more than the noise around you. You are your own steady companion, and in learning to enjoy that companionship, you unlock a source of peace that no one can take away. When people think of their darker impulses, their hidden fears, or the emotions they would rather not reveal, the instinct is almost always to push them away. We grow up learning that certain parts of ourselves are unacceptable, that showing anger makes us dangerous, that expressing sadness makes us weak, that admitting jealousy makes us petty, so we learn to suppress, to bury, to deny. We polish the image of who we believe we must be, while behind the mask the disowned parts of ourselves are forced into silence. What many fail to see is that this very act of denial does not weaken the shadow, but strengthens it. Every time we refuse to face what lives within us, we give it more power over us. Denial is not destruction. It is containment. Imagine locking something away in a dark room and throwing away the key. It may be out of sight, but it is not gone. It grows in the dark, feeding on our fear, shaping our reactions, and finding its way into our lives in disguised forms. The more we pretend it is not there, the more it controls us. What we do not face inwardly will eventually confront us outwardly, appearing in the way we treat others, in the choices we make, and in the crises that repeat themselves in our lives. The shadow thrives on denial. When you suppress anger, it does not vanish, it hardens, waiting for the smallest crack to erupt, often at the worst possible time. When you bury fear, it grows into anxiety that colors every decision, making you cautious even when courage is needed. When you deny envy, it seeps into resentment, poisoning relationships and blinding you to your own path. Each act of denial is like pouring water on a seed. The seed of the shadow does not wither. It roots itself deeper, expanding silently until its presence can no longer be ignored. This is why people often find themselves repeating the same destructive patterns. They wonder why they keep choosing the same kind of partner, why they keep sabotaging opportunities, why they keep falling into cycles of regret. They think it is bad luck or fate, when in truth it is the unacknowledged shadow at work. By refusing to see it, they are led by it. Denial gives it the power to steer from behind the curtain. What is unexamined directs us more than what is conscious, because the unconscious never rests. It operates without our awareness, shaping thought, behavior, and even desire. To understand how denial strengthens the shadow, one must see how energy works in the psyche. Every impulse, every emotion, every thought carries energy. When we accept and integrate it, we direct that energy consciously. But when we deny it, the energy does not disappear. It becomes distorted. Anger denied turns into bitterness, fear denied becomes paralysis, desire denied grows into obsession. The more we run from it, the stronger its grip becomes, because the shadow feeds on the attention it is denied. It is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It requires effort, but sooner or later it will burst to the surface with force. Even society reflects this truth. Cultures that demand perfection and deny human flaws often create environments where those very flaws erupt in exaggerated and destructive forms. A community that insists on purity produces hidden corruption. A family that forbids open conflict breeds quiet resentment and unspoken hostility. The rule is the same at every level. What is denied gains power in silence. The painful irony is that by denying the shadow, we become less free. We imagine we are protecting ourselves from pain or shame, but in reality we are binding ourselves to it. We live cautiously, afraid that someone might see through the mask. We judge others harshly, not realizing we are condemning in them what we cannot accept in ourselves. We project onto the world the very qualities we bury inside, making enemies of our own reflection. The more we deny, the more fragmented we become, until our lives feel divided between the person we present and the person we secretly are. And yet, within this struggle lies a hidden opportunity. The intensity of the shadow's power is proof of its energy. If denial strengthens it, then acknowledgement begins to disarm it. The very forces that seem destructive become sources of strength once they are brought into awareness. But as long as denial persists, the shadow rules. Its strength is born from secrecy, and secrecy is maintained by fear. To face the shadow is to begin loosening its grip, but to deny it is to hand it control. Calm people aren't calm because life has been kind to them. They're calm because they've learned, often the hard way, that reacting to everything costs more than it gives. They've sat in rooms where people raised voices, slammed doors, hurled insults, and they realized that the loudest one rarely walks away with the win. The calm one does. The one who doesn't need to shout, doesn't need to defend every attack, doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. That's the one people remember. Calm is presence. It's the decision not to let someone else's chaos become your identity. It's strength without display, control without noise, power without performance. It doesn't mean you're unaffected. It just means you don't hand your emotional steering wheel over to people who haven't earned that privilege. Calm people feel everything: anger, disappointment, pain, but they know how to carry it with elegance. You notice it in moments of conflict. One person explodes, the other stays still. The room gets quiet because everyone realizes something. The one who remains composed has the upper hand. Calm isn't just emotional, it's psychological leverage. It signals you know who you are, and nothing confuses someone more than expecting you to break and watching you hold your center instead. There's a different level of confidence in someone who doesn't flinch. Not because they don't care, but because they've trained themselves not to be pulled into emotional traps. Calm people don't enter battles to prove themselves. They walk away from unnecessary noise because their worth isn't tied to winning debates. It's tied to protecting their peace. They understand that most arguments aren't about truth. They're about ego, fear, or control, and you don't need to attend every power struggle you're invited to. People underestimate calm. They think it's soft. They confuse it with passivity. But the truth is, staying calm in a moment where everything around you is screaming for a reaction takes discipline most people don't have. It's easier to lose control, easier to yell back, easier to throw blame. But calm takes awareness, it takes restraint. It takes strength to feel triggered and still choose maturity over reaction. And it's not just about how you deal with others. It's about how you lead yourself. Calm minds think clearer. They make sharper decisions. They don't rush into action just to relieve discomfort. They pause, they observe, they listen, and then they respond with precision. While others are stuck in loops of drama, the calm person is 10 steps ahead, because their energy isn't scattered. It's focused. In relationships, calm becomes the anchor. It's the difference between reacting from insecurity and responding from understanding. It's saying, I hear what you're saying, but I won't let this moment define how I treat you. It's diffusing tension with truth instead of adding fuel with emotion. When two people argue, both think they're right. But the one who keeps their composure is the one who gets heard, because calm invites safety, and people listen differently when they feel safe. In career, calm is leadership. It's walking into a high-pressure situation and being the person everyone looks to because you're not panicking. You're focused, you're steady, and that presence calms others. Teams don't follow the loudest person in the room. They follow the one who makes them feel secure when everything is uncertain. That's calm power. It builds trust, it commands respect, and it leaves an impact long after the conversation ends. There will always be people who try to provoke you, not because they hate you, but because your calm threatens them. Your refusal to engage in chaos highlights their own lack of control. It shows them what they're not ready to face in themselves, and rather than do the work, they'd rather pull you down to their level. That's why your calm must be protected, not as a defense, but as a declaration. I decide how I show up, not you. Real power is rarely loud, it's quiet. It's the ability to stay composed when you've been misunderstood. It's choosing grace when you've been insulted. It's walking away with your dignity intact when your pride is begging you to stay and fight. That's calm, and it's not just powerful, it's magnetic. Because in a world full of noise, the one who remains still becomes unforgettable.